All right, so there's going to be two videos to today's asynchronous lesson. We're going to go ahead and start our unit of laws of exponents, and it's basically like your order of operations, okay? But these are rules that apply for problems that have exponents in them, okay? There's certain rules that you've got to follow if you're going to solve the problems correctly. So there's several rules. I think today we're going to talk about three, okay? The first rule that we're going to talk about is called the product of powers rule. Also known as the product rule. So what the product rule says is that if you have numbers, okay, that have exponents, what you got to do is you got to look for the base. You got to look at the base. So there's two types of problems. Let me show you, well, actually, let me write the rule first. For the product rule, if there is no variable and the bases are the same, then here's the rule. So this has to be true first. If there is no variable and the bases are the same, dot, 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 here's what you got to do. Leave the base alone and add the exponents. So that's one way to solve a certain type of problem with the product rule. Let me give you an example of what that looks like. If there is no variable and the bases are the same, it's talking about problems like this. 5 squared times 5 to the 6th power. First of all, I know that I'm supposed to use the product rule because I see a dot. Dot means multiplication, which of course, that's what product means, okay? So this is for anything having to do with multiplication. Notice how there's no variables. I don't see any letters, okay? And notice how the bases are the same. These are called the bases. So if the bases are the same and there's no variables, all I got to do is leave the base alone. So I'm going to leave the base alone. And I'm just going to add the exponents. The exponents are these right here. You're going to add the exponents. So 2 plus 6, well then my final answer is 5 to the 8th power. Okay. But what if there is a variable, right? Well then, that's why this product rule is like two different situations. This is situation 1, where there's no variable and the bases were the same. Well, that's all you got to do. Okay? You leave the base and add the exponents. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well then why do we call it product rule if we did not even multiply at all in this problem, right? Well, because in the second version, okay, sometimes there is a variable. So if there is a variable, then you must multiply the bases and add the exponents. You're always going to add the little ones, okay? It's the big numbers, the bases, that you are going to have to multiply, and that's where the product rule comes in, the word product. So for that example, let me show you. Y to the fourth times y to the third times y. So there's variables, all right. I see those y's. There's variables. But where are the bases? They're there. They just did not like to put them. They're ones. Okay? So I still have to multiply them. 1 times 1 times 1, well, it's just 1. Then you write your letter, and you get your little ones, and you add them. So here's a 4, here's a 3, and what do you think is here? You don't see it because it's a 1. So I'm going to end up having to do 4 plus 3 plus 1, which will equal 1y to the 8th. Or simply y to the 8th, because they don't like to put the 1 in the front. So that's your product rule, okay? Sometimes you have variables, sometimes you don't. And you have to remember that, okay? So let me do some examples with you. So what if I had this? 6 times 6 squared times 6 to the, I don't know, 5. All right, am I going to do version 1 or version 2? I'm going to do version 1 because there is no variable, okay? So the rule says that if there's no variable, to leave your base. You see how it's all the same? Leave it alone. You're just going to write it. And then you're going to take the little ones and you are going to add them up. So you're going to add up this imaginary 1 with the 2 with the 5. And that's going to give you 1. That's 3 plus 5 is 8. So 6 to the 8th. All that is the same thing as that. So now let's do another example. What if you had this? -3 a cube and b times 3a b4 and c. I just made it very difficult, right? Well, it's not. It's not that difficult. Look at what you got to do. First of all, I know that this is the product rule because 2 parentheses next to each other like that, that's multiplication. So that's why I know I have to follow the product rule. Then I have to think of version 1, or version 2. Well, I'm going to follow version 2 because I do see a lot of variables there. So the version 2 says that I have to multiply the bases. Remember, your bases are your big numbers, these. So I have to multiply those. So -3 times 3, that's -9. Okay, so you're done with that. You don't even look at those anymore. Done. And now you've got to add the exponents. Okay, but you got to be consistent, like terms. These exponents, the A's, only go with the A's. B's only go with the B's, and C's only go with the C's. So I'm going to write an A, and I'm going to go here. 3 plus the imaginary 1. That's 4. Then I'm going to go to the B's. B has an imaginary 1 here and 4 here. So there's a total of 5 because I have to add them up. And then C, oh man, this guy doesn't even have a C. He's the only one. So write it down. And there's your final answer. Okay. Let me do one more. Okay. there's variables, so I'm going to follow version 2. Version 2 says to take your bases and to multiply them. So you're going to do 4 times -2, that's -8. And then you're going to add up all the exponents for every single little letter. The letters are separate, okay? So there's A's, that means you got to do the A separately. 2 plus imaginary 1. Add them up, that's 3. Don't ever multiply 2 times 1 and put a little 2. The multiplication part only happens with the big numbers. That's it, done. The exponents with the product rule will always be added, okay? Now I'm going to go to the B. There's 2 here, there's 5 here, that's a total of 7. And then for the C's, there's 1 here and 3 here, that's a total of 4. So now I'm going to write down some homework questions for you to do. Okay, so that's the product rule. Remember, we're going to talk about 3 rules today. This is the first one. And I'm only going to give you like 2 of them, okay? Let's see. Okay, there's 1. And there's the other. All right, so what I'm going to check today is that after you finish this video, you're going to take a picture of your notes with these 2 problems solved, and you're going to upload it. So easy 100 or easy A at least, because this is all you got to do on your own. Everything else is just taking the notes so that you're ready to do some more practice on Wednesday. All right, so this was the product rule. Now go watch the one for the next rule.